name is Frances Bennett. I live in Kiltyclogher. Live in the village. We were the butchers there for a hell of a lot of years. And we bought from the local farmers. It was all local. The cattle we needed, sheep, whatever, lambs, the lot, you know. The fun they had in that place, once upon a time. The laughter and the crack. And they used to pluck turkeys there at Christmas and the fun they had plucking them. Sometimes some of the boys came with a few jars too many and the turkeys were torn and there was war. You know, there were great times though, you know, and there was great neighbours and great people in the locality. We had a hell of a lot of, we had a great population here at one time.
My name is Tammy McFarlane and we're in Kiltyclogher, County Leitrim. I've been living here nearly 5 years now. I love it, absolutely love it here. So I've always wanted to live in an area like this. It's surrounded by mountains, lakes, nature. It's beautiful around here. I'm originally from South Africa, so you know I grew up kind of in the countryside. This is for me.
My name is Kieran Rock and I'm the Heritage Officer at Kiltyclogher, and we're in Fermanagh at the moment, and we're beside the Kilcoo River, or known as the County River. And when you look around in this area on the way from Kiltyclogher out, there's a large floodplain, and that's where you get all these spring flowers popping up, and you get these wonderful colours that you see around at this time of year. And you would see, like along the way, you would see wild garlic, you would see bluebells, you would see primrose, you would see vetch, you would see bugle orchids coming into life at this time. So you have irises below, like, which are known as flags in this area, which grow. They're kind of a banded flower that grows to about 1.5 feet high, and then a beautiful iris comes out with beautiful flowers, mostly yellow in this area that they are. You would also have cow's parsley here, you would have bluebell, you would have marigold, you would have vetch, you would have daisy. So everything's bursting into life. The hazel trees are starting to come out, the birds are whistling, and it's a great time of year to be out and about. We're on the site where St. Patrick actually arrived here in the early centuries, 400 AD. When he came to the Kilcoo, it was at night time in the flood, and all his followers and friends knelt down on the ground, and his knees are buried in the ground over there in the limestone karst rock, which he prayed for, and eventually a bridge crossed the Kilcoo River during the night, and they said it was a miracle. So all his followers and himself went to the higher banks across here in the south side, up those cliff edges, and they stayed in this area and formed a monastery. This is the story that goes.
I do actually enjoy fishing. I'm not really very good at it, but years ago there used to be massive fish in the water. You could literally go out and within an hour you'd have 9 huge fish. And in our own Kilcoo lake here as well, you would get fish up to about 40 pounds. It was a huge fishing community, so people, you know, that's what people did for sport around here, and it fed families.
The local streams were full of trout, right up into the mountains. I remember coming home from England as an older teenager, I had younger brothers, and we'd bring a bucket and we'd go way out. You come back with a half a bucket of trout, like, no problem. We used to catch them sometimes in the kind of bigger rivers. You'd bring a cat with you and a pot of jam and a bucket, and you'd sit the cat on a stone. Now, you know the cat won't go into the water. She'll sit on the stone in the middle with the water, and of course there'd be fish about. You'd put a bit of jam on the cat's face. Okay. Yeah, and you put the bucket in the water in front of the cat with a stone in it that it wouldn't get washed away. And the fly would go for the jam. And as the fly went for the jam, the trout went for the fly, and the cat went with the pot to knock the fly away, and they knocked the trout into the bucket. In half an hour, you had a bucket full of trout. And there's no fish now. There is no fish. Now there's a few trout in the Kilcoo River, few, but they're few and far between. It's just a shame, but nothing can be done about it now. They'll never come back.
Well, my name is Raymond Evans, and this is Upper Loch Machneen. It's very unique because there's 7 different breeds of fish in Loch Machneen. There's pike and perch and trout and roach and bream and eel, and then a hybrid, and that's a cross between a perch and a roach or a perch and a bream. So there's lots of different varieties of fish to be caught. But I seen fish here caught, the biggest fish I seen here caught in my time was 25 pound, but I reckon years ago that there was 40 pound fish caught, pike caught here. That's what they say, and there is old photographs to prove the fact that they weren't weighed at the time, I suppose, but they were huge fish.
Interesting wildlife around here will be otters, we have deer, we have Daubington's bats, we have, what else would we have around here? Fox, badger, we would have, in the Arnie catchment we have a great creature called the crayfish. All the species that Ireland has known would be along this area. The otters are they're at the moment, like some of the young pups are out at the moment in Dean's Lake. It just comes the river that comes in here, and they make kind of very, very cute sounds like monkeys. They make a sound that goes ah 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 ah, you know. So it's very nice to hear. Interesting birds around here. There's actually one invasive fellow, he's not too invasive, that comes now and again. He's a cormorant, and we're very afraid that the cormorants and the seagulls are coming in from the sea. And there was a sighting of a montague, which is very rare. We also see sparrowhawks. We would also see, we'd have 4 types of swallow. We'd have the swallow, we'd have the swift, we'd have the sand martin, and we'd have the house martin. The heron is here, yeah, he's usually in that river behind me underneath the bridge. The heron was important in old Celtic culture for sure. You weren't allowed to eat it. The Druids were saying it was sacred not to eat this. This one bird was forbidden at the time, you know. And it would also be used in the actual field. The Filioch, all the poets of Ireland would also they have a competition at one stage to be the chief or high poet, and they would wear a mantle of feathers, native feathers, and his feathers would have been on the crown or on the shoulders of this mantle.
My name is Joseph Sheeran from Kiltyclogher, County Leitrim. I'm part of Kiltyclogher Heritage Centre. We're currently on Dhu Mountain. Dhu and Thur are national heritage sites. The mountain here is a flat plateau, and it goes on for a few miles. In that right over towards Loch Macneen. It's vital that the whole area is preserved because of the richness of the habitats that it has. On the eastern side it's got steep slopes, and that's where the sand martins are nesting in. The most important native species around here is the marsh harrier. There's also golden eagles to be found here. The Irish hare, it's rich in red grouse, in the curlew, in snipe, in skylark, in meadow pipits, in the cuckoo and the buzzards. The bog is so rich in other creatures. The decomposition of those creatures and the vegetation goes into creating the bogs. 14% of the land in Ireland is bog. It holds over 50% of the carbon sink of the country. Bogs are one of the rarest ecosystems in the world. Irish bogs are particularly important because we have one of the largest areas of bogland in Europe, and it's vital that we maintain that. In past generations, the bogs were under threat by our predecessors cutting turf. Currently, it's under threat by building wind farms. This is an example of sphagnum moss. We can see here how the moss changes in colour and how it combines with the heather, and then it gets lighter in colour, and then this is the start of the foundation, the gradual formation of the bog itself, where it turns into peat. You can see how the roots gradually extend into the bog itself, and then over hundreds of years the carbon is building up, and therefore that's what you call the carbon bank. The moss itself, it retains over 20 times its weight in water. There's a gradual release of the water down into the water basin. That prevents flooding downstream in times of heavy rain. Otherwise, water, it goes straight down into the rivers and cause flooding in our towns and villages.
But you can see the water now is very brown at the moment. Now that's coming down from the bog, it's coming down from two bogs. It's coming down from the bog on Dew Mountain and it's coming down from the bog on Tor. And along the way it's going through farmland, so it's picking up a lot of sediment along the way. This is not good, but we need filtering. There is a certain amount of discharge that would be good in the river, but we'd also like to stop some of those discharges that come from humans. And that's what we would be looking at over the next 10 years, hopefully around here, to see how we can help people and get the water quality up. I'd say the greatest pressure at the moment probably would be, people always go after the farmer because they look for nitrate, but that's like beating them up. But mostly it's the state itself around here, because the state controls most of the land. So that would mean that the forestry, it would be all those companies that they would use in private contractors and like, would probably have some education on the land, but maybe not enough to actually go into something as delicate as this. So the riparian area would be the trees, and the trees would actually solidify the bank and stop it meandering so much, so you could actually manage the river properly if you leave the trees and carefully cut them. They also shade the area, keeping the water temperature down in summer, because some of the creatures that live in water cannot go above certain temperatures and would die or have to migrate. So having trees is very important for shading along the river. You have a joint heritage between north and south in the river itself. And on this side, on the north, you can see that there's still trees and you have all this lovely flora and wildlife that exists there. On the far side, we've had a removal of the trees and a removal of that flora, which is now causing problems for life itself. In the river, temperature will rise higher. You will also have extra sediment from all this tree cutting and from all this movement of heavy machinery. And the area has been cleared from here in Kiltyclogher all the way, the whole bank has been cleared all the way to the Melvin, the whole way down. So that means it's about 30 feet in from the water has been devoid of life for the last few weeks. There may be signs of small growth growing at the moment, but it would have been just like something from the Somme. So everything was destroyed all the way down. So what we did have was an influx of bats coming into houses in Kiltyclogher, and we had rats and mice, and we had seen rabbits on the streets, badgers in movement. We would see all the creatures, birds, all that were nesting had to move as well. So this would be a great disturbance for our ecosystem and would have a detrimental effect on us in this area. We have a number of invasive species as well along this area. Along in the Arnie we have quite a lot of rhododendron that supposedly came from Tottenham's Demesne there in Glenfarne and spread out wild, you know, so they're a very exotic plant, but they're all over Ireland, so I don't think they only came from there. And we also have mink in the area, and this would have a detrimental impact on, say, ground nesting birds and duckling along the water's edge. Yeah, we also have zebra mussel, which is also including, it's in the area, but they're keeping it out by, there's a great campaign to wash your boat and wash your boots. As you can see our wellies, we'll be watching our wellies as we walk around here, that we're not going from catchment to catchment and bringing invasive species with us as we go.
Kiltyclogher is rich in its heritage of its birthplace of Sean McDermott. It's rich for its traditional music and singing, and also it's close to the border, so we've got very good cross-border relations, and that's where the Earn catchment comes in. It's a means of growing up those relations between people north and south of the border.